In today's episode, I'm sharing with you 4 finished objects as well as a bunch of works in progress and some of my future plans. Hi there, welcome back to Knitting by the Bay. My name is Christy, and this is a podcast all about making, but mostly knitting. In today's episode, I wanted to share with you 4 of my finished objects. I also have just recently cast on 2 new projects, and I've got some yarns for some future knits that I'm thinking about making. At the end of the episode, I wanted to share with you some of the progress I've made on my holiday cross stitch that I've been working on. And I also wanted to share with you a bunch of books that I've just finished. I just finished reading, 2.5 books. I'm almost finished the third one, and I liked all 3 of them for different reasons, I think. So I wanted to share those with you guys. And then I have a stack of books that I'm going to be reading, and I can't really decide which one of those I should read next. So maybe you guys have an opinion on that. We're having some weird weather here today. So it was like pouring rain. It was super windy, really, really dark, like about a half an hour ago. And now the sun is like out and shining. And then I think it's going to get rainy and we're going to get some snow overnight. They're talking about a lot of snow coming for the snow belt, which is where we live in Ontario. And they're talking maybe, I keep seeing up to 50 centimeters of snow this weekend. But I don't think we're going to get that much. I think for where we are, we're about maybe 20 to 30 centimeters. Still a good amount of snow. But today it's everything is going to start tonight, they're saying, with a lot of snow squalls and everything. So the weather is like being weird. And so the lighting in here might be a little strange today, but I've got my ring light on. When I set everything up, it was super dark out. And now it's like bright and sunny. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be okay. So let's begin with the finished objects. And I'll start with the one that I'm wearing. This is my Gia Zipper Genser. It is a pattern by Sandnes Garn, and it's available in their book number 2202. And I've been working on this one for the past couple months, and I decided to knit mine using Sandnes Garn Above the Clouds, and held together with Knitting for Olive mohair in the color Soft Blue. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. This was my first time using double Sunday. And so, yeah, I've never tried that one before. I think, have I used like the fingering weight Sunday? I don't think so. So this is the first time using this one. It is merino wool, and it is very, very soft. So I've paired it with the Knitting for Olive mohair, which I find soft. I definitely find it softer than the Sandnes Garn mohair, but it still does prickle every once in a while. But honestly, I feel like this sweater mixed with the double Sunday is very, very soft. Like I'm not wearing a t-shirt underneath it, so it's just next to skin right now. There's a tiny bit of prickle, but I am very sensitive to mohair, so, But I think if I were to knit this only in the double Sunday, it is extremely soft. So I would definitely want to knit using this one again in the future. So yeah, I really enjoyed, knitting this sweater. It was very confusing for me. I talked about this in some previous podcasts that I find the writing style very minimalist. And I guess that's okay. But for somebody, I would consider myself maybe an intermediate knitter at this point. And so I didn't understand a lot of things like, so I had to look them up on ChatGPT and figure it out. And once I got the right instructions or the way that made sense to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's like, obviously it's like that. And it was so easy to move forward with the knitting. But yeah, I did have to look into it at quite a few different spots when I was knitting this, especially knitting this collar here. So this is all double knit. And I talk about it on a previous episode, so I don't really want to go into too much detail about it. But you are double knitting this side up to the neck here. And then you do the other side up to the same point. And then you're going to pick up stitches around the back and then you're going to continue to knit up, but at the same time you are doing short rows to shape the back. So you're doing double knitting and you're doing short rows, which I thought was going to be very confusing or a little difficult, and it actually wasn't at all. It was really fun to do. I found doing this whole double knitting collar was fun to do. Like, I liked the process of doing it, but it was extremely hard on my hands because you've got like so much thickness of fabric on your needles. And yeah, it just like, it did hurt my hands a lot, and I had to take breaks throughout it. And it took quite a while because you're knitting double to get this all done. But I really thought the way that it came together was really well thought out. It was really interesting, and I learned a lot of stuff while I was doing this. So once you finish the collar, you are going to continue knitting up with a, a few stitches here, and you create this very long strip of fabric that's going to become the facing for the zipper. And you knit that up attached to here, and then you fold it down, and it goes over the zipper tape when you are sewing in your zipper to hide that. And I think it looks very nice and clean. I probably could have done a neater job, but this was my first time doing anything like that, and I think it turned out pretty good. The only spot so you knit this big strip coming up, and you knit it to the length of the opening here. And then you're going to knit like a tab, like a rectangle that is on the end. And then you can't remember if you knit. No, then you're going to, yeah, what you do, you knit up, then you knit up here, and you join them across, and you make a tab that is going to come down here and cover up the end of the zipper tape. And when I did it and I was sewing it in, I said to my husband, like, this is amazing how this has been thought out, because it came like it was the perfect fit, and it fit my zipper perfectly. It covered up that spot. I sewed it all down. And then when I turned it, because I was doing it inside out, when I turned it the right way, you could totally see this square stitched in here. And I try very hard not to come right through to the front, like just pick a little thread of the yarn instead of going right through to the front, if that makes sense. So I really tried that, but I think just because of the thickness of that tab, it just can't help but show through to the front. And I did look on some other projects on Ravelry, and I did see that was sort of like, I could see it in their picture. And maybe that wouldn't bother some people, but I didn't think it looked very neat. It kind of, puffed out right there. I didn't like that. So what I ended up doing was I sewed across it a bunch of times before the tab, and then I just cut it off. So it doesn't look super neat and tidy on the inside. It doesn't look terrible, but yeah, I just like sewed it across in this line right here, so you don't notice that tab there now. And so I think that worked out really good. So I don't know, if I were to knit this one again, I wouldn't bother knitting that tab part. I would just bind off, like I would join these two strips, I guess, and then I would bind them off right after, and then just sew it in this groove here where the stitches were picked up. And I think that would work just as well and look a lot neater. And yeah, but every other part of the sweater, I thought it came together so beautifully. I love the look of the double fitted or the double knitted collar, and I keep getting people to like feel it because it's so like nice and sturdy of a fabric. If you were to knit this just single layer, this would just flop all over the place, I think. And now it just sits so nice and neatly. And I will zip it up for you, and then you can see. And I didn't buy the best zipper, like the best quality zipper, so it kind of gets stuck every once in a while. But anyway, yeah, I think it's really, really cute and very cozy. I've been wearing this one a lot recently. So this pattern is extremely cropped, like on purpose. That's like the look. and I didn't want it super cropped. I didn't want it super long either, but I didn't want it as cropped as they suggest. So I ended up knitting it an extra 9 or 10 centimeters. And for me, it's actually it's still cropped, but I like it. I think because the shape of it, like it's very boxy up here. But then after here, like right after the underarms, like you knit for a bit, and then you're going to decrease quite a lot. So it's very boxy at the top, and then it comes in at the waist. And then you do a whole bunch of, what do you call it? Twisted rib at the waist. So I'll stand up and show you. So you can see how it really comes in there and comes in at the waist. And I really like how that looks. When I raise my hands up, it doesn't like come up and show off my stomach or anything. It just stays in place. And so, yeah, I really like it as like, a casual sweatshirt type of sweater, but it's wool. And yeah, so I'm super happy with this. I actually would like to make another of one of these if, you know, I have to wait a little bit because that double knitting like hurt my hands and I'm a little traumatized by it, to be honest. So I don't know, maybe in the future, maybe next year I would make another one because I really want to make one either in like a dusty pink or a like off-white. I think would look really, really nice in this. So yeah, super happy with how it turned out. And yeah, I've already worn it out, and my mother-in-law saw it and she was like looking at it, and then she said like, did you make that? And I said, yeah, I did. And then she was like, really? Because I thought maybe, but then I saw like the zipper in it, and then I thought maybe not, and like it looks really like store-bought or whatever. And I was like, no, I made it. So yeah, I definitely recommend this sweater if you're okay with looking like, either if you're okay with very minimal instruction or you don't mind looking things up. If you do decide to knit this and you get stuck at a part, you can send me an email through Ravelry, or my email is listed in the comments, I think, or on my YouTube page or something like that. Or you can send me a message on Instagram, and I can maybe guide you through some of those things that I figured out. But anyway, otherwise, it's a really great sweater. I'm so happy with it. Okay, finished object number 2 is my Sunday morning shawl. And this is a pattern by East Base Tricot, and it is a free pattern as well. And I will show you. I've had this one done for a little while now, so it's going to be hard to show you the entire thing, but maybe I'll stand up. And yeah, this is it. I love it. So I ended up using Drops Charisma for this, and I don't remember the color, but all of my projects are in Ravelry, and I put all the colors and notes and all of that in there if you want to check it out. But it's sort of a grayish color. And this was my first time using Drops Charisma. And the reason I chose it was because they had it at this little yarn shop that I was at, and I really wanted to pick up something for a project. So I really like this color as well, so I picked it. And to be honest, I don't love it just because I find it very scratchy. And it's a super wash wool, so I kind of would have expected it to be a little less scratchy than this. And for, a shawl that's up around your neck and everything, you want something that's a little bit more soft and cozy feeling. And I've also tried wearing it more like a scarf. So putting it like with this at the front and wearing it as a scarf, like with my coat. And I really like the way it looks, but I have another scarf that I just bought from, I think from Winners. And it's like fleecy and it's so soft. So when I go to like grab a scarf, I don't really want to pick this one because it's rough feeling to me. I don't know. So I end up choosing my store-bought scarf, unfortunately. But I have used this when I'm sitting and knitting, and I'll just throw it over my shoulders. Like if I'm wearing, it's fine if I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. I wouldn't say it's like super scratchy or anything, but it wasn't, what I was hoping for with a superwash wool and everything. But anyway, as far as the pattern goes, it was very, very easy to do, super simple. It's a beautiful pattern, and it's so nice that it's available for free. So a lot of this is, mindless knitting. You're doing different like stripes or whatever, and one is stockinette, and then you do some twisted rib, and then stockinette, and over again. So very easy to memorize. You don't need to really pay attention while you're knitting it. And yeah, I had so much fun. This is a DK weight yarn, so it knit up fairly quickly, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So at the bottom, you're gonna do these baubles all across here. And I think I wrote down how many. Okay, there was about 129 baubles on mine, I think, around there. So basically, every third stitch that you're doing, you have to turn that into a bauble. So if you don't want to do baubles, first of all, you could just leave the baubles off. I saw a lot of projects like that where they didn't do the baubles. Sorry about that. My dog started barking, so I had to move them to the other room again. But then when I was moving them to the other room, I realized that my battery on my microphone was not working. And so I looked back on the video, and for the last little bit of the video, there was no sound. So I'm going to redo that part right now. But sorry about that. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about the Sunday morning shawl and about the baubles. And so now I can't remember if I already told you that I used the recommendation from a different knitter on their project page, that they used a video tutorial to make the baubles. And I'm not actually sure if it's the same as what's in the pattern. I didn't go by the pattern instructions. I just used this video tutorial, and it was really great and really helpful. So I will link that down below in case you want to watch that. I find for myself, the video tutorials are very helpful, especially for things like this. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed making all these baubles. I didn't think that I was going to, but I really had fun doing them. I don't know how long it took me to make 129 of them, but it wasn't like crazy long time. I think it was just like sitting down and watching TV or watching a movie or something, and I made all the baubles. And I really like how it turned out. So I'm super happy with this pattern. So if you haven't made one, I totally recommend making yourself a Sunday morning shawl. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is the Musselburgh hat that I made for my son. I let him pick out the color from the website, and he picked out this beautiful cobalt blue. I don't have the hat because he's worn it to school. He's been wearing it every day. He loved it, and he really likes how it turned out. I really enjoyed making that pattern, and I definitely want to do another one. I used a fingering weight yarn, Lang Jewel, and so yeah, it took a little bit longer because what you're doing is, I won't talk too much about it because it is a very popular pattern. Lots of people have made it already. So what you do is you cast on with, I think it's called Judy's Magic Cast On, or Judy's Magic Loop or something like that. And it creates the circle at the top of the crown. And then you just do the increases until you get to about 2 inches in between a set of increases. And then you measure that, and you look on the chart that's included in the pattern, and it'll tell you how many increases you're supposed to do for your gauge of yarn. So you can use any gauge that you want, and then just start knitting it. Everybody starts off the same, and then you check the chart based on your gauge. So that's really cool because you can just start knitting this pattern if you just have a skein of yarn or two at home. Then you could just get started making that on any gauge of yarn. So I really like that. What you do is you increase for the crown, and then you knit this very, very long tube. And then you do the decreases on the other end to mirror the crown. And then this side is going to get stuffed up inside of the other side. And there's also extra fabric to fold over if you want a brim on it. His brim is only like that tall or whatever, but it works for him. Or you could just not use the brim and just have like a slouchy hat too. So I'm thinking to make my husband one like that because he doesn't really like a folded brim. So I might make one of those. It took a very long time, but it was kind of my mindless knit that I would bring with me because it's like a ton of stockinette in the round. But I think for my husband, I might make like a sport weight or a DK weight the next time, just so it knits up a little bit faster. What else did I want to say? So he wanted a pom pom. He always wants a pom pom on the top. And so I told him, like, if I have enough yarn left, then I'll definitely make you a pom pom. And he normally wants like the biggest one that I can make. But I used 2 balls of the Lang Joie, and I had just enough at the end to make a tiny, like one of the smaller pom poms. I have the set of Clover pom pom makers. I don't have them up here with me, but so I used the smaller one this time and made this cute little pom-pom to match his hat. And I love how it turned out. It's so cute. And then I had just enough yarn because I made sure when I was making the pom-pom to use up all the rest of the yarn so I wouldn't have any left. And yeah, so that worked out perfectly. And then inside of the Lang Joie yarn is this little spool of reinforcement thread. And I didn't know about this until I was watching Summer Lee's podcast, and she talked about it. And I actually had some of the yarn in my stash that I hadn't used yet. So I went and got it. And yeah, sure enough, there's this spool of thread that's in there that you can use when you're making socks to hold together with the yarn when you're doing the heel or the toe of the sock. And that's really cool. So I know there's a lot of people that don't know about it because it's not very well stated on the ball band that it's in there. And so, yeah, it was a big surprise for me, but it really came in handy when I was sewing on the pom-pom onto the head because I had this thread that's the exact same color as the yarn. So I was able to do that. And yeah, I thought that worked out really well. So definitely happy with that pattern. Would recommend that you make one if you haven't already. All right, so my last finished object is a pair of mittens that I talked about on my previous episode about wanting to make for my sister. So I will link that episode down below because it is a roundup of cabled patterns, like new cabled patterns, and I'm holding a giveaway there. So if you just comment on that video with your favorite cabled pattern, either from the bundle or from one that you've always wanted to knit, then you will automatically be entered to win the pattern of your choice. And it doesn't have to be from the bundle. It can be any pattern that you really want to knit. So yeah, I really wanted to make a pair of these mittens for my sister. So the pattern is called The Space Between, and it is a pattern by Sconza, and they are a DK weight mitten. I ended up using Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, which I think is a worsted weight yarn. And then I wanted them to be fluffy as well. So I held it with their soft silk mohair. And so for the heavy merino, I used Ballerina, and the mohair, I used the color Cherry Blossom, I think. And yeah, so my mitten, since it's a DK weight pattern, and mine is knit with basically, I guess, an Aran weight yarn, mine are very dense. And I ended up doing the smaller size as well. But my fabric turned out very, very thick and dense, which I think is awesome because for our winters where I am in Ontario, Canada, it gets very cold. And those really cute, adorable fingering weight mittens don't really cut it here for our winters. They're good for if you're in the car or you're going somewhere quick, but for an actual mitten to wear if you're going on walks outside, you need a thicker mitten. And so I think that this fabric turned out like perfect for these mittens, and I will show you how it works. Now, these are cable mitten, and they are an all over 2x2 rib. So they turned out kind of funny when they were finished because with the ribbing that cinches them in made them look really skinny. So I blocked them and I kind of stretched out the ribbing just a little bit so that when my sister opens the present, she's not like, oh, like she would never say that. But I know that she might think that they look kind of funny because they do get very skinny. So I kind of stretch that out. But at the same time, I didn't want to stretch it out too much because the ribbing is so nice that it just like hugs your hand so nicely, which adds to the warmth factor as well. So here they are. And I love how they turned out. I think they are so cute. And the cable pattern is really pretty. It's not a ton of cabling. It's just that little midsection. And yeah, the other side is the 2x2 rib. And I'll show you what it looks like, one of the mittens, when it's on my hand. Super cute. I think she's really gonna like these. These were pretty easy to make. I think I knit them in like a weekend. And the pattern is really good. I found it very easy to understand. There's one little thing I wanted to mention in case you're like a beginner to cabling. I think this is a great pattern if you're a beginner to cabling because you've just got the cabling on this side. As long as you're comfortable knitting in a smaller circumference, I didn't find it tricky at all to do the cabling because it's not a ton. And the mohair is driving my nose crazy right now. So one thing about the cabling, in a lot of other cable patterns, I see, like when you do, I don't know the proper names of the cables, but like a 2/2 cable. Usually it will be like knit 2 from the front, cable holder, like hold the stitches in front, knit those 2, knit the ones from the back, like that. But because this is a ribbed fabric, some of the time when you're going to be doing the cable, you're going to actually be purling those ones. And you can tell because you don't want to interrupt that ribbing. So you know, like if you just use like common sense, you know that you're going to be purling those. But sometimes in the pattern, like the ones that I've done before, it'll say knit 2 from the front and purl 2 from the back. But this one just says work the cable stitches. And so that might be a little bit confusing if you haven't done cabling before. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, I thought everything was very well explained, and I really like how they turned out. This pattern is fairly new, so there's not a ton of projects on Ravelry, and I think that there should be more projects on Ravelry for this one. So I would like to gift one of you guys this pattern if you would like to make these either for yourself or make them as a gift. They don't take very long to knit up, and yeah, I think they make a really, really nice gift for somebody. So just comment down below with what you're working on right now, either what you're knitting on while you're watching this, or what projects you've got going on, and you'll automatically be entered to win this space between mittens. Okay, so that is everything, all of my finished objects. So let's dive into my works in progress. I've just cast on 2 new ones in the past couple days. And it was funny because I actually pretty much got everything cleared off my needles. I just have to finish my second kitten catch mitten from Florence Miller. And there's something funny that I heard on a podcast. I think it was Laura Penrose was knitting some mittens. And she gave a good tip that once you finish the one mitten, it could be a mitten or it could be a sock, cast on right away for the second one, because if it's sitting there already cast on ready to go, you're more likely to pick it up and work on it. But if you think, oh, I've got to cast it on and it's not ready to go, you might, it might get left behind. So I definitely should have done that with my mitten because I finished the first one a while ago and I really, really want to have those mittens, but yeah, I just need to get that second one cast on soon. That's not one of the ones that I just cast on recently. So I was going to make my holiday sweater that I talked to you guys about, which was going to be a combination of Andrea Mowry's DRK Everyday Cardigan, which I absolutely love that pattern, and I was going to combine it with the color work and the lace that is on the LL Bean sweater, an LL Bean sweater with these dogs on it and some lace and some, other polka dots and stuff like that. I loved it, and I worked really hard making a chart for that and everything and trying to figure out like how to knit that one. And then I just decided I don't want to do it. And I think the reason is there's just way too many other things that I want to knit right now. And that one was going to take a lot of brain power. And I've got a bunch of other non knitting crafts that I'm doing right now too. So I don't know, it just didn't feel like I wanted to do it. And I'm not going to force myself to knit something if I'm not feeling it. And that sweater is not actually like Christmassy, so it could be knit at any time. I've got my notes and I can always cast that one on in the future if I want to. But I did feel a little bit of guilt about it for some reason, which is like ridiculous because this is a hobby. So who really cares? But I thought I put so much work into it. I talked with you guys about making it. I was super excited about it. But I don't know. For me, the more that I look at something and don't make it, then the more like I don't like I have to cast it on pretty quickly if I want to make it. Otherwise, the more I look at it, the less excited I become about it, which is unfortunate. But that is what has happened with that. So I had ordered this yarn for it, which is Durham Natura Ulysse in the color Pouvre. And yeah, that was going to be the main color of my cardigan. And then I changed my mind about that for the cardigan, and I ended up ordering another color, the Pouvre Blanc. And so I have sweater quantities of both of these two yarns. And anyway, I had this left over. I'm not going to make the DRK cardigan with it. So I started looking up other patterns, and I came across Fable Knitwear's Bibliotech top. And I love her patterns. I've never once made one of them, but I just really like her style. She does a lot of things with like puff sleeves. I think like sort of a vintage feel to her patterns. And I've always wanted to make one. And so, yeah, I decided that I thought like this color would look really beautiful in that pattern. I'll put a picture up of what it looks like here. And yeah, so that's what I've decided to do. Now, this pattern is a DK weight pattern, and this Durham Natura Ulysse is a sport weight. So I decided I kind of used a knitting gauge calculator thing online, and it kind of told me to just size up to the next size. I don't know if it's still going to be too small. I did a gauge swatch, and I think it was supposed to be like 10 centimeters, and my swatch came out as 9 centimeters. So based on that, when I put it into the gauge calculator, it told me just to size up one. So that's what I'm doing. It looks very, very tiny right now, so I don't know. This pattern is knit from the bottom up in the round. Then you're going to, once you get to underarms, you're going to knit the sleeves, and then the sleeves get attached. And it's got a very nice like square neckline on it, and the body is all done in a 2x2 rib, and then the sleeves are stockinette. And yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. I think it would look really nice in this color here. And so I'll show you what I've got so far. So this is it. So it's a negative ease top. So yeah, it looks tiny right now, but it's going to stretch out, and it's also supposed to have some, like it's supposed to have, I'm not sure if she states how much negative ease in the pattern. Maybe 2 inches of negative ease, I want to say, but I'm not positive. So it is going to stretch out, but it is supposed to sort of hug your body. It is quite cropped on her, and so I'm going to make mine longer, not super long, but long enough that, my stomach's not showing. And I think that I maybe have like a longer torso or something, because she suggests that you do, I think it was like 9 inches. So you're going from the bottom up, and you do about, not 9 inches, 9 centimeters. And then you're going to start shaping for, like you're going to start shaping for the bust area. And so you're increasing it for that area. And yeah, so it's only 9 inches or 9 centimeters under your bust. And that is like very, very short for me. So I'm going to have to increase this quite a lot, which is fine because I have tons of this wool anyway. And I think what I'll do is I'll just keep knitting until I get to like under my bust, and then I will start the increases there. So no big deal. I am I've come up with sort of a color palette, which is really, I find it really interesting, like color palettes and stuff like that. And I sort of like rules with my knitting, although I don't always stick by the rules. I a lot of the time do not, but I kind of like the planning and the rules about knitting. And so I've kind of come up with my own color palette of colors that I think suit me and that I like. And I've narrowed it down to, can't remember how many I picked, but I'll put up on the screen the colors that I want to go by. And I'm going to try for the next little while to only choose colors like these particular colors. I think there might be 7 of the colors. And so this is sort of one of those colors. And the colors that I'm showing in my color palette are all Knitting for Olive Merino colors, just because they have a really great range of colors. They have a lot of colors that are like dusty colors, which I think I'm a soft summer, so those are very soft summer colors. And so I'm not only going to order from Knitting for Olive, but I'm going to try and match other brands as well to that same color palette. So this one is very close, I think, to Knitting for Olive Dusty Moose, which is one of the colors in my palette. So I think that's going to work out good. And by having this narrowed down set of colors, I think it's going to make it easier because all of these colors go together. And so, I could choose like 2 of these colors or 3 of these colors to do color work with. Or if I wanted to sew myself a pair of pants, I would choose one of these colors and then knit a top out of one of the other colors, and they're guaranteed to all go together. All that to say, this is one of the ones from that color palette. A second one is, I purchased this yarn a while ago, and it just, I have decided to keep this one in the color palette because I really like it. And this is, I am knitting, I've cast on the Robinson Wrap by Florence Miller. And I talked to you guys about wanting to make this one a little while ago. And I am using the colors Dusty Dove Blue and the mohair that matches. And this is Knitting for Olive. Color is not looking great. Outside it's getting dark again, so I think the snow is on its way soon. Yeah, so it doesn't really show up that great. But it's a very nice, deeper, dusty blue with a little bit of purple in it. And so, yeah, it's deeper and darker than this one. And I do really like this color, but I think I want to try like something that's a little bit darker. Anyway, so I have cast on last night for the Robinson Wrap, and this is what I've got, very little bit. Yeah, it looks a lot more saturated in the camera, but it's more of a dusty blue. And so this is, yeah, you cast on, place your markers for the raglans, and you're knitting along the back and shaping it to eventually come to the front. So like this. And then this one is a wrap style. And I think the edges finished with an I-cord, I can't remember. And then there's a lot of ribbing at the waist, like a huge chunk of ribbing at the waist as well. And then you have like a little tie for it. And I wanted to try this out because I like V-neck sweaters a lot. I think that they suit me better. And so this is naturally going to be a V-neck because it's a wrap sweater. And it's also going to give some waist shaping because of that tie that goes around the waist. So I wanted to try out some patterns that have waist shaping to them. So this one just does because it's a wrap. And I am loving it so far. Very, very easy to understand pattern. I've only knit the mittens by her before, I believe. That's the only pattern I've tried before. I do watch her podcast and I love her podcast. I think she's really, she tries out a lot of different, more, to me anyway, interesting knits, like different color work sweaters and stuff like that. So, anyway, I've seen this pattern. I've had it in my favorites for a very long time. So, I'm excited to be knitting on this. And yeah, it's very easy right now. You're just doing a compound raglan, which means it's different rates of increases. So like one row will have this many increases. Like you might increase in front and on the other side of the raglans, but on the following increase round, you do it like less increases at different spots. So yeah, it's not every increase round you're doing it at the same rate. It's different. And yeah, I'm loving that one. So that is my second whip. Now I've got notes here so I don't forget. I also would really like to cast on a hat. I haven't done it yet. I think I'm going to cast it on Friday. I tried to save some of these cast-ons for Friday because it just feels a little bit more special in a way. But I didn't really do that this week. I cast on two things like randomly this week. But anyway, I have another one that I want to cast on, which is the Autumn Alpine hat. And this one was so kindly gifted from one of my viewers. So if you're watching today, thank you so much for gifting this pattern. I'm really excited about it. I've had it in my favorites for a long time. I knit the matching sweater, I think last year. And yeah, so I've wanted to knit this one. I think the pattern on it is really pretty. And so this one, I have to check my microphone still working because I just charged it just a little bit, but it is, so that's good. Okay, so this one I will be knitting with two different yarns that I had in stash. So this is Retro Zaria Vovo, and it's a powdery blue color. And I think it's A568. A568. And I knit my beret, my Biz beret, using this same color, and I really like it. And then I'm going to use Durham Natura Ulysse in the color Pouvre Blanc. So yeah, I had a lot of this left over from the DRK sweater that I'm not making. So I will use this and this to make the Autumn Alpine hat, and I'm really excited to cast this one on. I find hats a little hard to wear when now I've got bangs, so I don't know if you guys have any tips for that. I'll just like push them out of the way, no big deal. But I was also looking into making like a headband, like a head warmer type of thing, because my ears always get super cold in the winter, and I have something that is called, I call it wind ear, which I swear it's an actual medical diagnosis, but my husband laughs at me all the time. He's like, that's not a thing. But I used to get like ear infections all the time just from like wind blowing in my ear. I swear that's how it happened. I used to also be a swimmer when I was younger, so I would get a lot of like problems with my ears. And then just like throughout the years, I would always get an ear infection like almost every winter. And so now I'm like super careful with my ears that I cover them whenever it's like super windy outside. And so just to have like a head warmer, something to cover my ears, I think that will be the next thing that I make. But this one is just so cute. I just love the color work on it. This folksy style floral design I love. And also I saw the crown of the hat too in some people's projects, and it just looks so pretty the way that the flowers like come together at the crown. So I'm excited to try that. And yeah, I think that'll look really cute in these two colors. Another one that I want to make, I just haven't ordered the yarn for, and I should probably wait a little bit because this one is not like, doesn't need to be made like for the super cold winter. It can be worn more in the spring. And this is called the Obladi top. And I can't remember who it's by. I forgot to write that down, but I'll put it up on the screen. This is just a very basic sort of top with a scoop neck. It has waist shaping in it. It has fitted sleeves. It looks exactly like the tops that I normally buy, just as like a t-shirt that I like to buy. I don't really like a boxy oversized t-shirt, so I will buy things that are more fitted. I love a scoop neck. And so this one just looks exactly like one of those t-shirts, but it's knit. And I think I'm really excited to make this one. Like I showed it to my husband, and he was like he's not into knitting, so I don't know why I always talk to him about these things. But I was like, I really, really want to make this one, and he's like, well, isn't that going to be kind of a boring knit because it is just like a basic long sleeve tee, and I said, yeah, but it's something that I think I will get a lot of wear out of. Also, a lot of the time I'm way too warm wearing like heavy sweaters like this that I can't wear them around the house. Like I wear them when I go out. I might wear them if I'm just like I wear them when I'm sitting and knitting, but if I'm up doing any sort of work that I'm going to get hot at all, I cannot be wearing these heavy worsted weight sweaters or anything. And so I think something like this top that is a fingering weight top will get a lot more wear. Another thing is it has like a lot of different techniques in it. I've looked through the pattern and there's a lot going on in it. I think there's a whole section, like an extra PDF that comes with it all about bust darts. So like if you have a certain size bust and up, you might benefit from adding these bust darts to it, which I've never done before. And so there's like pages about putting bust darts into your sweaters. And I think that you could use that in other patterns as well. You just sort of like take the instructions from that and add it to a different pattern. And I did read through some of the project pages from other people who said that they thought that it was going to be so complex because there were pages added about, certain things. And they said, no, like the way it's written, it's really easy to understand and it's really, really helpful. So I think that that's great. I think that I'm going to learn a lot of different techniques just from knitting this very basic top. There's waist shaping in it as well. And this one is striped. I'm going to make mine a solid color. I just haven't decided which color yet. But I think it's great to have too in case I do decide to make a striped one because she does the waist shaping in a certain way in a certain area so that you don't disrupt the stripes, which I think is good. And yeah, I think there's a lot to learn. There's something about the sleeve shaping as well that is unique to it. And there's instructions on that too. So I think that's really going to be very interesting knit. And I like the way that the sleeves I think they're called set-in sleeves maybe, but I think it gives it a very like clean look to the top. So I'm very excited about that. She has a bunch of other patterns that are very similar to this top, but are slightly different. There's another one that has the neckline on it looks a little bit more like shallower, or I don't know if that's the right word, like not so deep, not so open. And then the waist shaping on it is done at the front, which I think she calls princess seams, but I'm not sure. But they're done at the front, which she didn't do for the striped version because of this, not to interrupt the stripes. So there is that one too, and I kind of thought about that one, but I did like the neckline better with the in the striped version. So that's why I purchased that one. Another one that I'm working on, actually, this is one of my whips, but I've shown it before. It's a sock that I'm making for my husband. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's the Comfort Core sock pattern by Summer Lee. And I'm knitting it using Patton's Croy. I don't know the color of this one. I can't remember. Which I really like. And so this sock pattern is really cool because it's made to look like a sports sock. So you can't really tell in this yarn because it's all different colors. But it gives this like bumpy look on the top of the foot here that looks like a sports sock. And then it has this thing she calls the Comfort Core, which is basically made up of like slip stitches, and it cinches in there. So it's supposed to cinch around the, what do you call that part of your foot? The arch of your foot. And it'll cinch around that and hug your foot. And it's a ankle sock, and I think the pattern comes with longer leg sock as well. But my husband really likes ankle socks. And I knit him a pair of these last year. I think last year in the spring or something. And he loves them. He's like, those are my favorite socks that you've ever made for me. And I feel like they're not as fun to knit as just a basic sock or, a basic rib sock, because you're changing up the texture throughout the sock a few times. And so it's not just mindless knitting stockinette or knitting ribbed. You've got to think about where you are and stop and measure and all of those things. So it does take a few more steps, and that's why, like, I cast this one on a long time ago and I haven't made any progress with it because, yeah, I don't find it something that, it's not hard to knit, but it's just not as smooth sailing as like a stockinette basics sock. But anyway, we were at the yarn shop and together, and I asked him to pick out a ball of yarn that he wanted for another pair of socks. Just down the road I would make it. I think I showed you guys this one already. It is Lang Super Socks, Disco Socks. And I don't know what this color is, but anyway, it's a really crazy self-striping yarn. And he really wanted another pair. And of course, he wants the Comfort Core socks again. And so I am going to try my best to finish this pair, and to make him this pair for Christmas. So I can only knit on it when he's not around. And so I don't know if I'm going to get 2 pairs of socks made, as well as like a bunch of other stuff that I'm doing right now. But I'm going to try, and I might finish up this first one and just cast on these ones so that at least I get, because he didn't choose this sock yarn, I just had some of it, but he did really want this one. So if I get 1 pair made using this yarn, then I think that will be good. So I will probably finish this one, cast on for those ones, and hopefully get them done for my husband for Christmas. Okay, is that everything that I want to knit? I think it is. Yes, okay. And so now I want to talk about some books that I've read recently. So if you're not into books and you're only here for the knitting, thank you so much for joining me. I think this is a very long episode today, but most of my episodes, I think, are when I'm talking about what I'm knitting, tend to be pretty long anyway. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget, if you want to win the pattern for the, see, my memory is not great. For the mittens, these ones, this beautiful pattern by Sconza, please comment down below with what you're working on right now, and you'll be entered to win that pattern. And I really recommend it. So yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about books that I've read recently. So I've made some notes about them because I've actually finished 3 books since I talked with you guys last. One of them is an audiobook, and actually the 3rd book I'm almost finished, so I'm not completely done. But okay, I'll talk about the audiobook that I just read, which is called Wild Dark Shore. I can't remember the name of the author, Charlotte something, and I'll put it up on the screen here. This one is a very atmospheric book it is set on this remote island, which is like a fictional sub and Antarctic island called Shearwater. And it's the home of the last seed vault on Earth, I guess, the last global seed vault. Um, and if you don't know what a seed vault is, because I didn't know either until I watched this podcast by Cecilia Blomdale, and she lives on Svalbard, which is a very um, uh, northern island near the North Pole, basically. It's like the farthest north. And they have a seed vault there, and she's talked about it before. And I didn't know that that exists, but I think it's like such a cool idea where they have all the seeds for like all the plants and everything that we would need if something were to happen and all the plants were destroyed and we needed to bring back these plants, or if a plant or whatever went extinct or whatever, then we have all these seeds in the vault, like locked in the vault. So I didn't realize that existed, but that's super cool. So anyway, this is a fictional island called Shearwater where they have this seed vault, and it is the characters in the book are a dad and his three children, and they are the caretakers of this island. And so the island normally would have researchers on it, and because there's like tons of like penguins and wildlife and all of that on the island, normally there were researchers living there. But because of global warming and there are because of the rising sea levels and everything, the researchers had to leave because the water was just coming onto the island, and you know they couldn't do their research there anymore. So the dad and his three kids are still there. They're waiting to be picked up by this ship that will be coming to get them in like a couple months, like a month or two. And their job is they've got to pack up all the seeds from the seed vault. So that's what they're doing. And then one day there's this terrible storm, and this woman washes ashore on Shearwater, and the daughter of the man sees her, and they rescue her. And there's like they both, the family and this mysterious woman, both have these secrets going on, and it goes back and forth between the different characters with their different points of view, and it's sort of a mystery in a way. Like you don't really know what secrets they're hiding, but you know that they are. And so this book is like very atmospheric. There, like, it's a lot about loss and about grief, both with like human relationships as well as with the environment and stuff like that. And so I really, really enjoyed this book, and I really, really liked the audiobook because there are different character, like different voices. It's not just one person, and I just really like the way that it is done, the audiobook. This author also wrote the book Migrations, which I read a few years ago, and I don't totally remember it. I just reread like sort of the summary of that book just to refresh it in my memory. But that book is about a woman who is following the Arctic tern, and I think like their migration, which in the book it's going to be like their last, it might possibly be their last migration. And so she hires this boat to take her out to follow the migration of the birds. Maybe it sounds a little boring, but I don't know, I really just enjoyed that book as well. I really like the writing style. Yeah, so maybe if you like that, you might want to check that book out. I do totally recommend Wild Dark Shore, and I know it's won a lot of awards as well. Okay, another one completely different from that is called Devils. So this is a book by Joe Abercrombie, and I've never read any of his books before, but the podcaster Cecilia that I talked about, she purchased this book, and she was talking about, she hadn't read it yet at the time, but she was talking about it, and so I looked into it, and it sounded interesting to me. So this book is a fantasy book. It is sort of like a horror fantasy, I guess. So there are a lot. I didn't find it scary at all, but there is a lot of like fighting in it that's very graphic. So just be warned about that if you are not into that sort of thing. Don't pick up this book. Don't go into this book blind because there is a lot of that in it. Um, but what this book is about, it's about this monk who has been, well, I should tell you about the world. The world in here is sort of like medieval sort of world. It's like an alternative, like European history sort of world, but not like, so it has the names of different places like Troy and different places like that, but it's, the history of it is different. And so this monk, Brother Diaz, has been unexpectedly assigned to lead this group called the Chapel of the Holy Expediency. And they have to go and they're charged with escorting Alex, who is this woman who is like a thief. And it has just been discovered that she is actually the missing heir to the throne of Troy. And so their job is to get her to Troy to take over the throne safely. And so the group of people that Brother Diaz has to lead is made up of murderers. There's a werewolf, there's a vampire, there's like a necromancer, there's like all different sort of monsters or devils that are in this group and are going to be helping him to get her to the throne. But they have been there's been a binding put on all of them that they can only use their powers to help the princess. So anytime they would try and do anything to run away or do anything bad, they would get very, very sick because of this binding. So they have to help out to get her there. On the way there, they are met with a whole bunch of like different types of monsters. She has three cousins that also want to take over the throne. And so they've just found out she's actually alive. They had wanted to take over the throne. And so they are like trying to kill her so that they can take over the throne. They don't want her to. And so they, meet these different people along the way and, fight with them. And I thought it was really good. I mean, there is a lot of, like I said, violence and graphic parts to this book, but it's also really funny in parts too. Like, I think this writer does a really good job of like, so it's not like dark. It's not a dark like fantasy that's like, depressing or anything, even though a lot of crazy stuff happens. There's a lot of funny parts to it. There's a lot of, they sort of become a family in a way, even though they are, all like monsters in their own way. So I definitely recommend this if you're into fantasy, if you're into like horror, if you don't mind like graphic scenes like that, then I definitely do recommend this book. After I finished this, I looked it up and I'm pretty sure that this is going to become a movie. I think possibly James Cameron will be directing it. I don't know. That's what I read, and I think that that's like going to be really interesting to see how that gets adapted into a movie. And my third book that I'm almost finished right now, I got the recommendation from another podcaster that I watch, and her show is called Darling Desi. And her show is sort of like, her channel is sort of like, I guess you would say, I kind of want to say lifestyle blog or anything like that, but she talks about a lot of different things. I came to her channel more on her book recommendations, but she does a lot of like cozy content about books, about romanticizing the seasons and stuff like that. I find her very fun to watch and just very cozy, such a cozy show or channel. And yeah, so she recommended this book because she always does like a Halloween like reader's advisory type of things, and she recommended this one on throughout multiple years of her Halloween recommendations, and it is called Slewfoot. It's a book by Brom, and it's Slewfoot: A Tale of Bewitchery. So it's about so gotta get to my notes to see the year. Okay, so it's set in the year 1666 in colonial Connecticut, and it's in a small Puritan village. And so this is Abatha, and she lives there with her husband. She is actually from England, but her she has been, I think, sold by her dad to this man in this Puritan village to become his wife. And so she is there with him. He is very nice to her, very kind to her. But an accident happens and he ends up dying. And this happens right at the beginning of the book, so I'm not giving anything away. Um, and so she's left on her own. And her husband's brother really, really wants their farm that they live on because he has debts to pay off and he wants their farm. And he was trying to get the farm from his brother. And Abatha, who is like a very strong female character, she convinced him not to let his brother take the farm. But now he's dead, and so the brother-in-law is like coming after the farm to try and get it away from her. And yeah, it's also about this creature that she becomes friends with in a way, who is sort of like a demon or like a forest spirit type of thing. And they call him Slewfoot, which means devil as well. And so she ends up naming him something else. They kind of become friends in a way. And then things happen. I don't want to give away any of that. But I am loving this book. I haven't read a book that I love this much in so long. I had no idea what I was going to think. I'm not huge into fantasy, even though I just read Devils and loved that one. But yeah, I'm not super into fantasy a lot of the time, but I do like books about like witches and stuff like that. So, and I like things about like Puritan societies and stuff like that, and the witch trials and everything like that. So I am really, really liking it. I think it's very well written. The author is also an artist, so there are pictures in here in the middle. There's quite a few pages of pictures, so I'll just show you this one. So that is the main character, Abatha. And yeah, I think that's really cool that they're in the middle of the book so you can see there's some forest spirits, I guess they call them. I can't remember what they're called, forest folk or something. And there's paintings of them as well. They're a little bit scary looking, so I won't show them in case other people don't like that kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's cool how those are in the middle of the book there. And okay, so that's everything that I've read so far. So now I wanted to talk about, I've also got my cross stitch back here. I guess I'll talk about that after, but there's not a ton to say about that. But now I've got my books that I want to read. So this is the first one that I picked up that's called Euphoria. It's by Lily King. I don't know a ton about it. I think it's about some researchers, maybe a husband and a wife and another man. And I think there's like a love triangle that happens, but it's also about like their research that they're doing. And I thought it looked interesting. I really enjoyed this book called The Signature of All Things, which was by Elizabeth Gilbert. I read that a few years ago, and she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, which I was not a fan of. I didn't finish that book, but I really, really enjoyed The Signature of All Things, which is a very long, epic story about this one woman whose father was a botanist, and she becomes a botanist as well, I think. It was years ago that I read it, but I remember loving it. And I kind of was looking at that book on Goodreads, and then people were talking about that one. Actually, they were talking about Wild Dark Shore and saying that they are a big fan of Signature of All Things as well. And then if you like those two books, you would also really like Euphoria. So that's why I picked that one up. I'm going to read also The Mistletoe Mystery, which I talked to you guys before because I ended up going to the author talk for this author, Nita Prose, and she so nicely signed my book here. And this is a standalone book, but it stars the same character from the book The Maid, which is a series of books as well. And I read the first one of that, and I really liked it. And I thought I've been saving this one, The Mistletoe Mystery, for the holiday season. And it's a short little, I guess you would call it a novella, yeah. And so I thought that would be fun for the Christmas holiday. Another little one. No, I don't know where it is. Actually, I think I put that away. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I picked up another one at a used bookstore a while ago, which is Christmas with Anne. So Anne of Green Gables. And this is L.M. Montgomery. And this is just a book of little short stories all about all that take place over the Christmas season. And so, yeah, I thought that this would be really fun to read, just one story a day or something. And I was thinking maybe to read a story a day with my son, but I'm flipping through it and he probably won't be interested in this because the first story is called Matthew Insists on Puff Sleeves. I don't think my son will be into that, so I won't make him read that with me. But anyway, I think that will be fun to just read one story every once in a while. Another book I got, which was another recommendation, was The Bear and the Nightingale. This is a book by Catherine Arden, and this will be another fantasy book, so we'll see how I get on with this one. But this one takes place in the Russian wilderness, and I thought that would be a fun winter read for me. It says winter lasts most of the year at the edge of the Russian wilderness. So I thought that would be a fun book to read during the winter. And my last one is this one, Dan Brown. I've read all of Dan Brown's books, but I haven't read anything from him in a while, and I'm not sure if he's actually published anything in a while aside from this one. This one's brand new. I actually got it for my husband because he's a huge Dan Brown fan. So I picked it up for him, and yeah, so it's the hardcover version, which I don't normally like to buy, but the softcover hasn't been put out yet. So this is the one that I got. And I know nothing about what this one is about. I think it stars the same character, Robert Langdon, from the other books, like the Da Vinci Code. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I really like his writing. I find the twists and turns in these books really, really good. I don't see them coming a lot of the time. So I'm excited for that one too. All right, let's quickly talk about this, and then I'll wrap up this video because I think it's going to be super long. So this is my cross stitch that I'm working on for the holidays. It's called Christmas Village, and it's by the Victoria Sampler. And I will put a picture up here of what it's going to look like because all I have done is the boring words right now. So yeah, this is what I've got. Part of the words, I just start my cross stitches right in the center of the pattern and work out from there. And so the words are in the center of this one. And I'm kind of getting a little bored of it, and I don't think to pick it up and stitch it because it's like the boring words. But I'm not, part of me wants to finish all the writing. There's I got to finish this, and there's one more line of words at the top. So part of me thinks that I should get that all finished before I start working on the more colorful stuff. And then, yeah, another part of me just wants to be like, whatever, this is for fun, and just start working on the other more exciting parts now. I'm worried though that I might forget about this top row here and just start stitching the other stuff above it here and leave out that one row, because I'm known to do that. If I don't do something right away, I'm going to probably forget about it. So yeah, so maybe I should get the writing finished. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very, very tiny right now because this is 28 count casual linen. This is the color Smoky Pearl, and it's the recommended fabric for this pattern. And then the words here are all done in 2/1, I believe, 2 strands over 1 square. And so it's super, super tiny, and it's kind of hard to see. But I've got like magnifying glasses and a lamp that I put on over top, so that's how I work on it. And then the rest of the design, I think, is done 2/2, so it'll be like bigger with the rest of the design. And then there's beads in it. There's like a glittery thread in it as well. There's different types of stitches too, not just cross stitches. So I think it's going to take me quite a while. I don't anticipate having it finished by Christmas time or anything, but that's okay. If it takes me 2 years to work on it, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I hope to eventually have it done and frame it and put it up in my house at Christmas time. So I'm really, really liking it. It's a more complex cross stitch pattern than I've ever done before. Another thing is I talked about this last time, but they recommend different types of threads to use for it. And they're super expensive, those threads. I don't know like what's so amazing about them. So I have like tons of DMC thread already. I have all the colors. So they do have a conversion on their website. So you can convert all those more expensive threads over to the DMC colors if you want to do that. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing. That's everything that I had to share with you guys today. I feel like this is super, super long, but I've got a lot going on, and I was super excited to sit down with you guys and talk about it today. Don't forget to leave me a comment down below what you're working on right now. You'll be entered to win those mitten pattern that I think is so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got some inspiration from today's episode. And until next time, happy knitting, everyone. Bye.
Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Oh, Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Not only green when summer's here, but also when it's cold and drear. Oh, Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Oh, Christmas tree, such pleasure do you bring me. Oh, Christmas tree, such pleasure do you bring me. For every year this Christmas tree brings to us such joy and glee. Oh, Christmas tree, such pleasure do you bring.